I always prided myself on being the rock in my marriage, steady, dependable, confident. Sarah and I had built a life together that, on the surface, looked perfect. A beautiful home, successful careers, and a shared vision of the future. But lately, something felt off. Sarah had become distant, her laughter rarer, her eyes often clouded with unspoken thoughts. It started with small things. She'd come home late from work without a good reason, her excuses thin and unconvincing. When I pressed her, she'd snap, her frustration bubbling over into biting remarks. "You just don't understand," she'd say, her tone dripping with contempt. It hurt, but I tried to brush it off, believing that time and patience would mend whatever was breaking between us. My confidence never wavered. I was certain that with open communication and unwavering support, we could navigate through any rough patch. After all, we had weathered storms before: financial struggles, family conflicts, even the near collapse of our business venture. Each time, our bond had only grown stronger. I clung to that belief, refusing to accept that something irreparable was tearing us apart. One evening, after a particularly tense dinner filled with passive-aggressive comments and cold silences, I decided to unwind with a late-night jog. The crisp night air always helped clear my mind. As I ran through our neighborhood, the familiar sights and sounds should have been comforting, but instead, my thoughts kept circling back to Sarah's recent behavior. Doubt began to creep in, unsettling my usually unshakable confidence. When I returned home, the house was eerily quiet. I called out, expecting her to be in the kitchen or perhaps the living room, but there was no answer. A strange feeling gnawed at me, an intuition I couldn't shake. I decided to check on her, casually making my way to our bedroom under the guise of needing something I'd forgotten. As I approached the bedroom door, a mix of concern and unease settled over me. I pushed the door open gently, half expecting to find her there, but what I saw shattered the illusion of our perfect life. There she was, tangled up with Mark, her ex. The sight was a punch to the gut, a betrayal so raw and personal it left me numb for a moment. Sarah looked up, her expression a mix of guilt and defiance. "Oh, so you finally decided to come home," she sneered, her voice laced with sarcasm. Mark, equally shocked, tried to step away, but she pulled him back with a force that was both possessive and aggressive. In that instant, everything changed. The confident husband who believed he could handle any situation stood frozen, watching the woman he thought he knew unravel before his eyes. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a tumultuous journey that would test my resilience and push me to the edge of revenge I never imagined I'd entertain. The room seemed to close in around me, the air thick with tension and betrayal. My heart pounded in my chest, not just from the shock of the discovery, but from the sheer weight of what it meant. Sarah's sneering remarks still echoed in my ears, each word a dagger to the foundation of our marriage. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. My initial shock began to give way to a surge of anger and determination. I wasn't going to let her walk away with this, without a fight. "What the hell is going on here, Sarah?" I demanded, my voice firm, masking the turmoil brewing inside. Sarah rolled her eyes, her posture exuding arrogance. "Oh, come on, don't act so surprised. You think I enjoy this? It's not like you've been the perfect husband either." Her words stung, each accusation a calculated move to deflect blame. She was twisting the knife, trying to make me question everything. Mark, recovering from his stunned expression, attempted to interject. "Look, we can't explain. Save it." I cut him off sharply. "I don't want to hear your pathetic excuses." My confidence remained intact, even as my mind raced to process the betrayal. I had always believed in facing challenges head-on, and this was no different. Sarah scoffed, stepping closer with a malicious grin. "You think you can just confront us and fix everything? Maybe you're the problem, not me." Her blatant disrespect infuriated me, but I kept my composure. Showing weakness was not an option. As the confrontation escalated, fragments of our past surfaced, arguments we'd had, moments where I'd felt her growing distant. It became clear that this affair wasn't a spur-of-the-moment lapse, but a calculated decision she had been harboring for months. The realization only fueled my resolve. Determined to uncover the full extent of her deceit, I decided to take matters into my own hands. That night, I began sifting through Sarah's phone, her emails, anything that could shed light on her duplicity. What I found was a meticulously hidden trail of lies, flirtatious messages, secret meetings, and financial discrepancies that pointed to more than just an affair. Each discovery deepened my sense of betrayal, but it also ignited a spark of vengeance. Sarah had always underestimated me, assuming that my confidence would prevent me from being rattled. She was wrong. I was more than capable of handling this, and I was determined to make her pay for the pain she had caused. In the days that followed, I maintained my outward calm, masking the storm raging inside. I continued to perform my duties at work with unwavering professionalism, all the while plotting my next moves. Revenge was no longer just a thought. It was a meticulously crafted plan. Little did Sarah and Mark know, the consequences of their actions were about to spiral far beyond their comprehension. The path I was about to embark on would test every ounce of my strength and resolve, pushing me into a darkness I had never imagined. But confidence had always been my armor, and I was ready to wield it with precision and cold determination. The days that followed the confrontation were a blur of controlled rage and meticulous planning. Every interaction with Sarah felt like walking on a tightrope, balancing my outward calm with the storm brewing inside. Her blatant disrespect and the ease with which she dismissed our marriage had ignited a fire within me, a fire fueled by betrayal and a thirst for retribution. I began to dig deeper into Sarah's life, determined to uncover every secret she thought she had buried. Her phone, once a personal sanctuary, became my obsession. Late nights were spent sifting through messages, emails, and social media accounts, piecing together the extent of her deceit. It wasn't just Mark she was involved with. There were multiple names, each representing a thread in the intricate web she had spun. Sarah had always been manipulative, masking her true intentions with charm and wit. Her ability to lie effortlessly was both impressive and infuriating. She had convinced me of her innocence time and time again, each denial more convincing than the last. But my confidence was unshakable now. I knew I could outmaneuver her at her own game. One evening, as I reviewed her financial statements, I stumbled upon irregularities that went beyond personal betrayals. Large sums of money were being siphoned off into offshore accounts, evidence of a side business she had kept hidden. It wasn't just an affair. Sarah had been orchestrating a financial empire in the shadows, using our marriage as a cover. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. She wasn't just unfaithful emotionally and physically. She was deceiving me on a much larger scale. Fueled by this new information, I decided to confront her once more, armed with undeniable evidence. I wanted her to see the depth of her lies, to understand that I was no longer the naive husband she had taken for granted. When I presented the financial discrepancies, her facade crumbled. Gone was the bitchy, dismissive wife. In her place stood a woman desperate to maintain her empire, willing to destroy everything for her ambitions. "Do you have any idea what you're doing?" I asked, my voice steady but laced with controlled anger. "You're not just cheating on me, you're stealing from us. How dare you?" Sarah's eyes darted nervously, her usual bravado nowhere to be seen. "You have no proof," she retorted, attempting to regain control of the conversation. I held up the documents, the evidence irrefutable. "Oh, I have more than proof. I have witnesses, I have recordings. This ends now, Sarah. I'm taking back everything you've stolen, and you're going to face the consequences." Her defiance only fueled my determination. I knew that revenge wouldn't be as simple as confronting her. It required a strategic approach, calculated moves that would dismantle her carefully constructed life. I began reaching out to the contacts I'd accumulated over the years, legal experts, financial advisors, even some of her own business partners who were unaware of her deceit. As the layers of her lies peeled away, I exposed her for the fraud she truly was. Legal battles ensued, public scandals broke out, and her financial empire began to crumble. Each revelation was a blow to her pride, a reminder that she couldn't escape the consequences of her actions. She had underestimated me, thinking my confidence would blind me to her manipulations, but instead, it became my greatest weapon. Meanwhile, Mark, her supposed lover, tried to distance himself, but the fallout made him a target as well. I ensured that his reputation was tarnished, his career jeopardized by the association with Sarah's downfall. The two of them were left isolated, their alliance shattered under the weight of their combined deceit. Throughout this ordeal, my emotional state remained a calculated balance of controlled anger and unwavering focus. I allowed myself to feel the pain and betrayal, but I channeled those emotions into every move I made. There was no room for weakness, no space for doubt. I was reclaiming my life piece by piece, ensuring that Sarah and Mark would rue the day they decided to cross me. But as their lives spiraled downward, I couldn't help but notice the cracks forming in my own. The quest for revenge had consumed me, pushing me further into a darkness I had always kept at bay. The confidence that once defined me was now intertwined with a cold determination that left little room for anything else. I was no longer just the betrayed husband. I had become the architect of their ruin, a role that both empowered and haunted me. As Sarah and Mark faced the consequences of their actions, I stood tall, having dismantled the illusion of our perfect marriage. Yet, beneath the surface, I grappled with the realization that in my pursuit of vengeance, I had lost a part of myself. The journey was far from over, and the path I had chosen promised more twists and turns, each one testing the limits of my resilience and the depths of my resolve. As Sarah's financial empire crumbled and her carefully constructed facade began to crack, I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and unease. Every legal document I filed, every revelation I exposed, was a step closer to the revenge I had meticulously planned. Yet, beneath the surface, a nagging doubt lingered. Was I losing myself in this quest for vengeance? Despite these fleeting doubts, my confidence remained unshaken. I had always believed in taking control of my destiny, and now, more than ever, I was determined to steer this ship through the storm I had unleashed. Sarah and Mark had underestimated the lengths I was willing to go, thinking that a confident husband could be easily subdued. They were about to learn otherwise. One evening, after another long day of strategizing and executing my plans, I received an unexpected call from an old college friend, Ethan. We hadn't spoken in years, but his voice carried an urgency that piqued my interest. He claimed to have information that could further dismantle Sarah's remaining assets and expose her deepest secrets. Intrigued, I arranged to meet him the following day. Meeting Ethan was a reminder of the life I once had, a life filled with camaraderie and trust. His presence was both comforting and a stark contrast to the cold path I was treading. He handed me a USB drive, explaining that it contained incriminating evidence Sarah had meticulously hidden. As I glanced at the drive, I couldn't help but wonder just how deep her deception truly went. Back at home, I inserted the USB into my laptop, the anticipation almost tangible. The files that unfolded before me were damning: blackmail material, hidden investments, and even evidence of her manipulating mutual friends to turn them against me. It was clear that Sarah had orchestrated every move to ensure her escape, leaving me with nothing but the wreckage of our once promising marriage. Fueled by this new arsenal of evidence, I knew my next move had to be decisive. I began contacting journalists and influential figures who could amplify the fallout, ensuring that Sarah's reputation would be irreparably tarnished. The media frenzy that followed was exactly what I had envisioned, a public downfall that would leave her isolated and powerless. Meanwhile, Mark found himself increasingly under scrutiny. As I fed carefully curated information to the press, his professional and personal life began to unravel. Projects he had worked on were canceled, and his social circles dwindled as rumors of his association with Sarah took hold. Watching him lose everything he had built was a bittersweet victory, a testament to the meticulousness of my plan. But revenge is a double-edged sword. With each step I took to dismantle their lives, I felt a part of myself wither away. The cold determination that once fueled my actions was slowly being replaced by a hollow sense of accomplishment. I was becoming the very thing I despised, calculating, ruthless, and devoid of empathy. One night, as I sat alone in our once shared home, now echoing with the ghosts of our past, I reflected on the path I had chosen. The confidence that had been my cornerstone was now overshadowed by a growing emptiness. Was this truly the person I wanted to become? Had the pursuit of revenge justified the erosion of my own humanity? Before these thoughts could fully take root, a new twist emerged. Sarah, refusing to go down without a fight, reached out with a proposition that neither of us could have anticipated. She wanted to meet, not to reconcile, but to negotiate a settlement that would spare her from complete public ruin. Her tone was desperate, a stark contrast to the bitchy, boorish demeanor she had always displayed. Intrigued and wary, I agreed to the meeting, sensing that this was another move in her intricate game. As the day approached, I meticulously planned every detail, ensuring that I maintained the upper hand. Confidence was my ally, and I was determined to use it to secure my final victory. The night of the meeting, I arrived at the designated location, a secluded cafe that offered both privacy and neutrality. Sarah was already there, her presence a mix of vulnerability and defiance. She looked different, stripped of her usual arrogance, revealing a side I had never truly seen before. "Why are you here?" I demanded, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotion swirling within me. She sighed, her eyes meeting mine with a hint of resignation. "I want to make a deal," she replied, her tone surprisingly sincere. "We can both walk away from this without destroying each other completely." I studied her for a moment, weighing her words against the years of betrayal and deceit. Was this a genuine attempt at resolution, or another tactic in her arsenal to salvage what little she had left? My confidence gave me the clarity to see through her facade, recognizing the desperation beneath her plea. "I've already won, Sarah," I stated firmly. "There's nothing left for you to negotiate. You've lost everything." Her eyes narrowed, and for a brief moment, I saw a flicker of fear, perhaps the first real crack in her armor. It was a reminder that even the strongest facades can crumble under the weight of truth. But my resolve was unshakable. This meeting was not about mercy or understanding. It was the final act in our twisted dance of revenge. The weeks following our tense meeting were a whirlwind of strategic maneuvers and calculated risks. Sarah's proposal to negotiate had ignited a spark of uncertainty within me, but my confidence remained steadfast. I knew better than to let her desperation cloud my judgment. She had always been a master manipulator, and I wasn't about to fall into her traps again. As I delved deeper into the wreckage of our marriage, I uncovered more layers of deceit. Sarah had been siphoning funds not only for her side business, but also to support Mark's endeavors, creating a financial symbiosis that made their alliance even more dangerous. Their relationship wasn't just a fling. It was a partnership built on mutual exploitation and manipulation. Determined to sever every last tie, I orchestrated a series of moves designed to dismantle their alliance completely. I began by leveraging the legal battles I had initiated, pushing for harsher penalties and more invasive investigations into their financial activities. The media spotlight intensified, painting Sarah and Mark as villains in a public spectacle that left them both isolated and vulnerable. Meanwhile, I reached out to mutual friends and acquaintances, subtly revealing the extent of Sarah's deceit. One by one, their support systems began to crumble, leaving her and Mark without allies. The more they tried to fight back, the more entangled they became in the web of their own lies. Their desperation was palpable, and it fueled my determination to see this through to the bitter end. But just as I thought I had the upper hand, another twist emerged. I discovered that Mark had been embezzling funds from his own company, using his connection with Sarah to cover his tracks. This revelation was a game-changer. It wasn't just Sarah who was unfaithful and deceitful. Mark was equally culpable, adding another layer of betrayal to the already complex situation. Armed with this new information, I expanded my campaign of revenge. I exposed Mark's financial crimes to his superiors, ensuring that his professional reputation was in tatters. Simultaneously, I presented the evidence to law enforcement, ensuring that both Sarah and Mark would face legal consequences for their actions. Their worlds were collapsing from all sides, a meticulously crafted downfall that left them with nowhere to hide. Throughout this process, my emotional state was a complex tapestry of emotions. While my confidence remained unshaken, there were moments when the weight of my actions bore down on me. The man I had become, a figure of cold determination, was both empowering and terrifying. I couldn't help but wonder how far I was willing to go, and what the cost of this revenge would be on my own soul. One evening, as I sat alone in the quiet of our former home, I reflected on the journey that had led me here. The betrayal I had felt initially had morphed into a relentless pursuit of justice, but at what cost? The lines between right and wrong had blurred, and I found myself questioning whether revenge was truly the answer, or if it had merely become an obsession. Just as these thoughts began to take root, another unexpected twist presented itself. Sarah approached me with an offer I couldn't have anticipated. She proposed a merger of our remaining assets, suggesting that by working together, we could salvage what little was left and perhaps find a semblance of peace. Her tone was unlike her usual abrasive self, vulnerable, almost pleading. I was taken aback. This was not the boorish, deceitful woman I had been fighting against. This was someone desperate to reclaim control over her shattered life. Yet, trust was a scarce commodity between us, and I couldn't afford to show any weakness. My confidence told me to decline, to continue the path I had set without wavering. However, a part of me was intrigued. Could this be a genuine attempt at resolution, or was it another ploy in her arsenal? The possibility of a final confrontation, where all truths would be laid bare, was both enticing and terrifying. It was the ultimate test of my resolve, and the culmination of our tumultuous journey. Deciding to proceed with caution, I agreed to a mediated meeting with Sarah. Every detail was meticulously planned, public enough to ensure transparency, yet private enough to prevent any last-minute manipulations. The stage was set for the final act, where the true extent of our broken relationship would be revealed. As the day of the meeting arrived, I felt a surge of adrenaline mixed with a deep-seated fear. This was the moment where everything would either be resolved or irrevocably shattered. My confidence was my shield, but beneath it lay a vulnerability I couldn't ignore. The path I had chosen was dark and fraught with peril, but there was no turning back now. Walking into the meeting room, I faced Sarah one last time. Her eyes held a mix of regret and determination, emotions I had rarely seen in her before. "Let's get this over with," she said, her voice softer than I expected. The meeting with Sarah lingered in my mind long after the night had ended. Her unexpected proposal had rattled me, not because I doubted her sincerity, but because it underscored the lengths she was willing to go to salvage her shattered image. I left the secluded cafe with a renewed sense of purpose. This was no longer just about exposing her lies. It was about ensuring that she and Mark would face the full consequences of their actions. Over the next few days, I intensified my efforts. Every piece of information I uncovered about Sarah and Mark was meticulously catalogued, ready to be weaponized. Their deceit extended beyond infidelity and financial fraud. It infiltrated every aspect of our lives. Mutual friends were manipulated, turning them against me, painting me as the villain in a narrative Sarah had carefully crafted. One afternoon, as I reviewed a stack of documents Sarah had neglected to hide properly, I stumbled upon something unexpected, a series of encrypted files on her personal computer. My curiosity piqued. I enlisted the help of a trusted cybersecurity expert, someone who owed me a favor from our college days. Together, we decrypted the files, revealing a treasure trove of incriminating evidence, illicit transactions, blackmail schemes, and even connections to organized crime. The depth of Sarah's betrayal was staggering. She hadn't just been cheating on me. She had been orchestrating a web of deceit that threatened to destroy anyone who stood in her way. This revelation was the catalyst I needed to escalate my plans. It was time to ensure that Sarah and Mark faced not just personal ruin, but legal retribution as well. I began coordinating with law enforcement, providing them with the evidence we had unearthed. The ensuing investigations were swift and relentless. Arrest warrants were issued, and Sarah's empire began to collapse under the weight of legal scrutiny. Her business partners abandoned ship, realizing too late the extent of her manipulations. The media frenzy intensified, painting her as a mastermind of corruption and betrayal. Mark, once confident in his position as Sarah's loyal accomplice, found himself out of options. The legal repercussions were severe, and his professional reputation was irrevocably damaged. As his world crumbled, he reached out to me, seeking some form of reconciliation or at least a semblance of mercy. I declined, my resolve unshaken. He had chosen his path, and now he would have to face the consequences alone. Amidst the chaos, I maintained my outward composure, the epitome of confidence and control. Friends and colleagues began to see the extent of Sarah's deceit, rallying around me with support I hadn't expected. It was a stark contrast to the isolation I had felt during the initial stages of her betrayal. This growing support network fortified my determination, making my revenge not just personal but public. However, as Sarah and Mark were dragged through the legal system, a new layer of complexity emerged. It became apparent that Sarah had more allies, people in high places, who were willing to shield her from the full extent of her downfall. These connections threatened to prolong the chaos and potentially derail my plans. I realized that to fully dismantle her, I needed to expose not just her actions, but the network that enabled them. This realization pushed me deeper into the underbelly of Sarah's operations. I delved into her associations, uncovering a network of corruption that reached far beyond what I had initially anticipated. Each revelation was a dangerous game, but my confidence never faltered. I had always believed that knowledge was power, and now, armed with the truth, I was prepared to wield it with precision. The emotional toll of this journey was undeniable. The man who had once been the confident, steady rock was now grappling with the darkness that revenge had carved into his soul. Yet, there was no turning back. Every step I took was a step further into the abyss, but it was a path I had chosen willingly, fueled by the pain and betrayal that had ignited this vendetta. As Sarah's network began to crumble, I orchestrated a final move that would ensure her complete downfall. It involved not just legal battles, but strategic alliances with those who had been wronged by her actions. Together, we presented a united front, leaving Sarah with no allies left to turn to. The culmination of my efforts was a public trial that exposed every facet of her deceit, leaving no stone unturned. The day of the trial arrived, and as I watched Sarah testify, her facade of confidence shattered under the weight of irrefutable evidence. Her once boorish demeanor gave way to desperation and fear. The courtroom was a battleground, and I was the undisputed victor, standing tall as the architect of her downfall. In that moment, as the gavel fell and Sarah was sentenced for her crimes, a sense of hollow satisfaction washed over me. The revenge I had meticulously planned was complete, but the victory felt bittersweet. The darkness I had embraced in the pursuit of justice had left an indelible mark on my soul. The confident husband I once was had transformed into something unrecognizable, driven by a cold determination that had consumed me entirely. Walking out of the courthouse felt surreal. The weight of the trial's conclusion pressed down on me, a mixture of triumph and emptiness swirling within. Sarah was finally facing the consequences of her actions, her empire dismantled, her reputation in ruins. The media hailed it as a monumental case of betrayal and corruption, painting me as the vindicated victim. On the surface, everything seemed to align with the revenge I had meticulously orchestrated. Yet, beneath that facade of victory, a profound sense of hollowness gnawed at me. In the days that followed, life began to settle into a new, unsettling routine. The public support I had garnered during the trial started to wane, replaced by a pervasive sense of isolation. Friends I once confided in now kept their distance, wary of the darkness that had consumed me. The confidence that had been my shield was now tarnished, replaced by a lingering doubt about the path I had chosen. One evening, as I sat alone in our now empty home, the silence was deafening. The spaces that once echoed with laughter and shared dreams were now filled with the ghosts of what once was. I stared at the walls, memories flashing before my eyes, moments of joy, love, and the gradual erosion of trust that had led to this point. The realization hit me hard. In my pursuit of revenge, I had sacrificed the very essence of what made me who I was. Just as I began to grapple with these thoughts, an unexpected visitor arrived, Ethan, my old college friend. His presence was both a comfort and a reminder of the life I had lost. He looked weary, the weight of his own burdens etched into his face. "We need to talk," he said, his voice carrying an urgency that piqued my interest. We settled in the quiet of my study, the air thick with unspoken tension. Ethan revealed that during my relentless pursuit of Sarah and Mark, he had uncovered something alarming. Hidden within the encrypted files we had previously decrypted was evidence of a larger conspiracy, one that implicated not just Sarah and Mark, but several influential figures in our community. This network of corruption went far deeper than I had ever imagined, reaching into sectors I had never associated with. My heart raced as Ethan laid out the details. Sarah hadn't acted alone. She had been part of a clandestine group orchestrating financial manipulations and political influence peddling. Their operations were sophisticated, masking their activities behind legitimate businesses and philanthropic endeavors. The implications were staggering. This was no longer just a personal vendetta. It was a battle against a pervasive system of deceit and power. A surge of determination replaced the emptiness I had felt. This was the twist I hadn't anticipated, a new layer to the already complex web of betrayal. My confidence reignited, fueled by the knowledge that there was more at stake than just personal revenge. It was about exposing a network that thrived on manipulation and exploitation, ensuring that no one else would fall victim to their schemes. Together, Ethan and I devised a plan to bring these hidden operatives to light. It required meticulous research, discreet surveillance, and strategic alliances with those who had also been wronged by the same network. The stakes were higher, the risks greater, but the purpose was clear. I couldn't turn back now, not when the truth was within reach. As we delved deeper, the obstacles became more formidable. Threatening messages arrived, warning me to cease my investigation or face dire consequences. The network was aware of our actions, and their reach extended into areas I had never considered. The psychological toll was immense, but my resolve remained unbroken. I had come too far to back down, too invested to let fear dictate my actions. One night, while poring over documents in my study, the power suddenly went out. The room plunged into darkness, the silence broken only by the distant sounds of chaos outside. My pulse quickened as I reached for my phone, only to find it dead, another calculated move to destabilize me. Ignoring the creeping sense of dread, I grabbed a flashlight and cautiously made my way to the window, scanning the perimeter for any signs of danger. That's when I saw it, a shadowy figure moving swiftly away from the house, disappearing into the night. My instincts kicked in, and I knew this was a direct threat, a warning to stop digging deeper. But instead of fear, a cold determination settled over me. They underestimated my capacity for resilience, my unwavering commitment to uncovering the truth. The following days were a whirlwind of covert operations and strategic maneuvers. Ethan and I worked tirelessly, connecting the dots and building a case that could bring down the entire network. Each revelation was a piece of the puzzle, bringing us closer to the heart of the conspiracy. The more we uncovered, the more entrenched the corruption proved to be, spanning industries and political landscapes. Amidst this chaos, I couldn't escape the growing realization that my pursuit of revenge had fundamentally changed me. The lines between right and wrong blurred, my actions teetering on the edge of morality. The confident husband I once was had transformed into a relentless seeker of justice, unafraid to confront the darkest aspects of human nature. Yet, with each step forward, I felt a part of my humanity slipping away, replaced by a hardened resolve that left little room for empathy. One pivotal night, as we prepared to present our findings to a trusted journalist, Ethan confided in me a troubling discovery. A close associate of mine had been covertly working with the network, feeding them information to undermine our efforts. The betrayal was personal, a reminder that trust was a fragile commodity in this treacherous game. My confidence wavered momentarily, replaced by a surge of anger and a renewed sense of caution. We decided to confront the traitor, ensuring that no further damage could be done. The confrontation was intense, emotions running high as truths were laid bare. The individual, desperate and cornered, revealed the extent of the network's influence, including their plans to escalate their operations if threatened. It was a stark reminder of the formidable enemy we were up against, one that thrived on manipulation and fear. As the realization of the battle ahead settled in, I felt a profound shift within me. This was no longer a personal vendetta. It was a mission to dismantle a corrupt system that had inflicted pain on countless lives. The confidence that had driven me through the darkest moments now fueled a broader purpose, a determination to ensure that justice prevailed not just for me, but for everyone affected by the network's deceit. The confrontation with the traitorous associate left me reeling. Trust, once the foundation of any meaningful relationship, had been irrevocably shattered. The revelation that someone close to me was feeding information to the very network I was trying to dismantle was a harsh reminder of the pervasive corruption I was up against. My confidence, though still intact, now carried an undercurrent of paranoia. Every interaction, every conversation, was tinged with suspicion. Ethan and I knew that time was of the essence. The network's influence was sprawling, and their ability to adapt made them formidable opponents. We couldn't afford any more leaks or betrayals. To counteract this, we fortified our operations, implementing secure communication channels, and enlisting the help of individuals we could trust implicitly. The stakes had never been higher, and the margin for error was non-existent. One chilly evening, as autumn leaves danced in the wind outside my window, Ethan brought unsettling news. He had uncovered a plan orchestrated by the network to silence key players who posed threats to their operations. This included not only Sarah and Mark, but also several high-ranking officials who had unknowingly become pawns in their game. The network was preparing to execute a series of strategic eliminations, ensuring their dominance remained unchallenged. The gravity of the situation demanded immediate action. Ethan and I devised a two-pronged strategy: expose the network's plans to the public and protect the potential targets from impending threats. We reached out to investigative journalists who had previously shown interest in corruption cases, but remained cautious about fully committing until we could verify our findings. The process was painstaking, each piece of evidence meticulously verified to avoid any miscarriages of justice. As we delved deeper, the network's reach became increasingly apparent. They had infiltrated various sectors: finance, politics, law enforcement, making their downfall a complex and dangerous endeavor. The more we uncovered, the more it felt like we were fighting an invisible enemy, one that thrived on secrecy and manipulation. Yet, despite the mounting challenges, my resolve only strengthened. This was no longer a personal vendetta. It was a battle against a pervasive evil that threatened the very fabric of our society. Amidst the chaos, a new ally emerged: Isabella, a former intelligence officer who had gone rogue after uncovering the network's operations. Her expertise in covert operations and strategic planning was invaluable. With her assistance, we gained insights into the network's communication methods and identified critical nodes within their hierarchy. Isabella's presence was a double-edged sword. Her knowledge was indispensable, but her past made her a target as well. One night, while reviewing our progress, Isabella shared a chilling discovery. The network was planning a massive cyber attack aimed at destabilizing the nation's infrastructure. The potential fallout was catastrophic. Power grids could fail, financial systems could collapse, and chaos would ensue. This revelation added an urgent layer to our mission. We had to act swiftly to prevent the impending disaster while continuing to dismantle the network from within. The pressure mounted as deadlines loomed. Ethan and I coordinated with Isabella to intercept the cyber attack, leveraging our combined resources and expertise. It was a race against time, each second bringing us closer to either success or catastrophe. The operation required precision, collaboration, and an unwavering focus, traits that my confidence had always instilled in me, even as the darkness of revenge threatened to overshadow my humanity. As the day of the planned attack approached, tensions ran high. Every decision carried immense weight, and the margin for error was razor-thin. We mobilized our allies, ensuring that every necessary precaution was in place to safeguard the nation's critical infrastructure. The gravity of our mission weighed heavily on me, but I pushed aside any lingering doubts. This was my chance to not only avenge the wrongs inflicted upon me, but also to prevent a catastrophe that could affect countless innocent lives. The fateful day arrived, and the atmosphere was electric with anticipation and anxiety. We monitored the network's communications, looking for any signs of the impending attack. Hours of vigilance culminated in a critical breakthrough, identifying the exact moment the network intended to execute their plan. With seconds to spare, we initiated our countermeasures, effectively neutralizing the threat and safeguarding the nation's infrastructure. The success of our mission was a bittersweet victory. While we had prevented a disaster and dealt a significant blow to the network, the cost was immense. The relentless pursuit of revenge had transformed me into a figure driven by a singular purpose, often at the expense of my own well-being and relationships. The lines between justice and vengeance had blurred, leaving me to grapple with the moral complexities of my actions. In the aftermath, as the dust settled and the network's remnants were systematically eradicated, I found myself standing at a crossroads. The confidence that had propelled me through the darkest moments now felt tainted, overshadowed by the sacrifices I had made and the person I had become. The journey had been long and harrowing, filled with twists and turns that tested every facet of my resilience and resolve. Yet, amidst the turmoil, a sense of clarity began to emerge. The path I had chosen, though fraught with darkness, had also illuminated my capacity for strength and determination. I had navigated the deepest abysses of betrayal and corruption, emerging not unscathed but undeniably changed. The shadows of victory loomed large, serving as a constant reminder of the fine line between justice and vengeance, a line I had willingly crossed, reshaping my identity in the process. As I stood there, contemplating the journey that had led me to this point, I knew that the battle had left an indelible mark on my soul. The confident husband I once was had evolved into a man hardened by betrayal and driven by a relentless pursuit of truth. The descent into darkness had been a necessary journey, one that had unveiled the depths of human deceit and the resilience required to confront it. The aftermath of thwarting the cyber attack left me both physically exhausted and mentally drained. The gravity of what Ethan, Isabella, and I had accomplished weighed heavily on me. We had prevented a catastrophe that could have devastated countless lives, but the cost had been steep. The lines between justice and vengeance blurred further, and I found myself teetering on the edge of a precipice I couldn't easily step back from. As the dust settled, the media spotlight began to shift once again. This time, it wasn't just about Sarah and Mark anymore. The broader conspiracy we had uncovered started to surface, exposing influential figures who had been complicit in the network's operations. Public outrage was palpable, and demands for accountability echoed through every corner of society. I became an unwitting symbol of resistance against corruption, hailed by some as a hero and vilified by others who saw me as the architect of a personal vendetta gone too far. Amidst the chaos, Sarah's presence lingered like a ghost. Her trial had concluded, but the damage to her psyche was evident. She was a shell of the woman I once knew, bitter, broken, and desperately clinging to the remnants of her pride. Our encounters became less frequent, each meeting charged with unspoken tension and the weight of our shared history. She no longer had the audacity to mock me. Instead, her demeanor was subdued, a stark contrast to the bitchy, manipulative persona she had once displayed. One evening, as I walked through the remnants of our once beautiful home, now stripped of its warmth and memories, I received an unexpected message from Sarah. It was a simple invitation to meet, no explanations, no pleasantries, just a request for closure. Part of me wanted to refuse, to continue down the path of revenge without looking back. But another part, perhaps the remnants of the man I once was, felt a pang of curiosity and unresolved emotion. Against my better judgment, I agreed to the meeting, choosing a neutral location, a quiet park where memories of happier times could coexist with the present turmoil. As I sat on a secluded bench, the cool night air did little to calm the storm brewing within me. Moments later, Sarah arrived, her posture slumped, eyes avoiding mine. She looked defeated, the woman who had once tried to tear my world apart now seeking something she couldn't quite define. "We need to talk," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "Not for you to feel better, but for both of us to find some semblance of peace." I listened as she recounted her perspective, the reasons behind her actions, and the hollow victories she had achieved through manipulation and deceit. Her words were laced with bitterness and regret, painting a picture of a woman who had lost her way, consumed by her own ambitions and insecurities. Despite her attempts to justify her behavior, the anger and hurt I felt remained, a testament to the depth of her betrayal. As the conversation progressed, a twist emerged that I hadn't anticipated. Sarah revealed that her actions were not entirely of her own volition. She had been coerced by higher-ups within the very network we had dismantled, forced into alliances and decisions that went against her true nature. The revelation added a new layer to the complex web of deceit we had both been entangled in, blurring the lines between victim and perpetrator. This admission stirred something within me, a fleeting moment of empathy, quickly overshadowed by the darkness that had taken root. Was she truly a victim of circumstance? Or was this another manipulative tactic to elicit sympathy and regain control? My confidence, though still a pillar, now wavered as I grappled with the complexities of our shared history. Before I could delve deeper into my thoughts, Sarah made a startling proposition. If you've truly dismantled the network, if you're willing to walk away from this path of revenge, then maybe we can find a way to move forward. For both our sakes. The offer hung in the air, heavy with implications. Could I truly let go of the anger and betrayal that had fueled my every move? The idea of reconciliation seemed almost foreign, yet a part of me yearned for closure, a way to reclaim the remnants of the man I once was before revenge consumed me entirely. But as I considered her words, another twist unraveled. A notification popped up on my phone, a message from an unknown number containing a video clip. My heart raced as I watched the footage. A clandestine meeting between high-ranking officials and remnants of the network, discussing plans to rebuild and expand their influence. They were far from defeated, and their reach was more insidious than I had initially believed. The reality hit me like a freight train. The battle was far from over, and the stakes had escalated beyond personal revenge. The network's persistence meant that their destruction would require more than just dismantling existing operations. It would necessitate a complete eradication of their influence, a task that seemed almost insurmountable. As I turned back to Sarah, determination replaced the fleeting empathy. "This isn't over," I declared, my voice steady. "There's still so much more to uncover and destroy. I won't stop until every last thread of this network is severed." Her eyes met mine, a mix of resignation and a hint of hope flickering within them. "I hope you find what you're looking for," she replied, before turning and walking away, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the looming threat of what was to come. The encounter solidified my resolve. The path ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but my confidence remained unwavering. The deeper abyss I had navigated had only revealed more layers of corruption and deceit, each one challenging me to push harder, dig deeper, and fight fiercer. The journey was far from over, and the twists and turns ahead promised to test the very limits of my resilience and determination. As I stood up from the bench, the weight of my mission settled firmly on my shoulders. Revenge had transformed me, but so had the realization that true victory lay not just in personal retribution, but in the pursuit of justice on a much larger scale. The shadows of victory loomed large, but so did the shadows of the challenges that awaited me. The revelation of the larger conspiracy had transformed my mission from personal vengeance to a crusade against a pervasive network of corruption. Ethan, Isabella, and I were now entrenched in a battle that extended far beyond Sarah and Mark, targeting a shadowy cabal that had its tentacles in every facet of our society. The weight of this newfound purpose was immense, but my confidence remained unshaken. If anything, the complexity of our adversaries only fueled my determination. As we delved deeper into the network's operations, the lines between friend and foe blurred even further. Trust became a rare commodity, and every alliance was scrutinized for hidden agendas. Isabella's expertise in covert operations proved invaluable, guiding us through the labyrinthine corridors of deceit and manipulation that the network had constructed. Together, we uncovered layers of corruption that were both staggering and horrifying. One evening, while poring over a series of encrypted communications, Ethan stumbled upon a name that sent a chill down my spine: Laura Thompson, Sarah's closest confidant and the person I had once considered a friend. Laura had been instrumental in facilitating the network's financial schemes, acting as the intermediary between Sarah and several high-ranking officials. Her involvement added a personal dimension to our battle, intertwining past friendships with present animosities. The discovery of Laura's role within the network was a significant blow. Not only did it expose the extent of Sarah's deceit, but it also revealed the depth of the network's infiltration into our personal lives. Laura had been the silent force behind many of Sarah's manipulations, ensuring that their schemes remained undetected. Her betrayal was a stark reminder that the network thrived on secrecy and loyalty to their cause above all else. Armed with this knowledge, we knew that exposing Laura would be a crucial step in dismantling the network. However, it also meant confronting someone I had once trusted implicitly. The emotional turmoil was palpable, but my confidence held strong. Revenge had become a driving force, and I was prepared to eliminate any obstacle in my path, regardless of personal connections. Our next move was strategic and calculated. Isabella suggested leveraging the evidence we had gathered to orchestrate a public exposé that would simultaneously discredit Laura and weaken the network's influence. The plan was audacious: organize a high-profile event under the guise of a philanthropic gathering, where we could reveal the network's secrets to influential media outlets and government officials. The preparation was meticulous. Every detail was accounted for, from securing the venue to ensuring the presence of key allies who could testify to the network's misdeeds. The night of the event arrived, and the atmosphere was electric with anticipation and tension. High-ranking officials, journalists, and influential figures filled the room, unaware of the bombshell that was about to be dropped. As I took the stage, the weight of the moment settled over me. The spotlight felt both empowering and daunting, but my confidence never wavered. I began presenting the evidence, each piece meticulously laid out to leave no room for doubt or denial. The room buzzed with whispers and gasps as the magnitude of the revelations became apparent. Laura Thompson's face was a mask of disbelief and rage as the truth unfolded before her. Her attempts to deny the allegations were futile against the mountain of evidence we had amassed. The media frenzy that followed was exactly what we had envisioned. Sarah and Laura's reputations were shattered, their influence irrevocably damaged. The network's facade began to crumble, exposing the rot at its core. But amidst the chaos, another twist emerged. A trusted member of our team, someone I had confided in implicitly, approached me with a grave warning. "They're not finished with us," he whispered urgently. "There's a contingency plan in place, something far more sinister than we imagined." The revelation sent a surge of adrenaline through me. The network was prepared to escalate their efforts, deploying measures that could inflict unprecedented damage. It became clear that our fight was far from over, and the true extent of their malevolence was yet to be uncovered. Determined to stay one step ahead, Ethan, Isabella, and I intensified our efforts. We knew that the network would stop at nothing to protect their interests, including eliminating anyone who posed a threat. The realization that we were up against an enemy willing to go to extreme lengths only strengthened my resolve. Revenge had morphed into a mission of survival and justice, and I was prepared to navigate the treacherous waters ahead. Meanwhile, Sarah's transformation was evident. The woman I once knew had been reduced to a shell, her bitterness and arrogance stripped away by the relentless pursuit of truth. Our interactions were now devoid of the venom that had once characterized her demeanor. Instead, there was a mutual understanding of the forces that had driven us to this point, though the scars of betrayal remained deep. As the network's contingency plans began to surface, the true nature of their operations became alarmingly clear. They had orchestrated not just financial and political manipulations, but were also involved in orchestrating chaos on a societal level. From sabotaging critical infrastructure to spreading disinformation campaigns, their reach was both vast and insidious. The final piece of the puzzle came unexpectedly. A confidential informant reached out, providing evidence of a planned orchestrated event that could destabilize the nation's economy and security. The gravity of this threat necessitated immediate action. We mobilized our resources, coordinating with law enforcement and cybersecurity experts to neutralize the impending crisis. The confrontation was intense and harrowing. As we worked tirelessly to dismantle the network's final operations, the personal toll was undeniable. The confident husband who had once believed he could handle any storm was now a man driven by a relentless pursuit of justice, willing to sacrifice everything to ensure the safety and integrity of society. In the darkest moments of this battle, a final twist emerged. Sarah, recognizing the futility of her resistance, approached me with a plea for redemption. Her once bitchy and boorish demeanor had softened, revealing a vulnerability that was both unexpected and unsettling. I never wanted it to come to this, she confessed, her voice tinged with genuine remorse. I was trapped, just like you. Her admission was a poignant reminder of the human cost of our vendetta. Despite everything, a flicker of empathy stirred within me, but the path of revenge had irrevocably altered my perception. The confident husband had become a figure of unyielding determination, his humanity overshadowed by the shadows of his mission. As we stood on the precipice of the network's complete downfall, I realized that the journey had changed me in ways I couldn't have anticipated. The twists and turns had tested my resilience, pushing me to the edge of what I thought was possible. Yet, there was no turning back. The reckoning was near, and I was prepared to face it head-on, armed with the confidence that had carried me through the darkest of times. The revelation of Laura Thompson's involvement had added a personal vendetta to our mission. Confronting someone I once trusted was a bitter pill to swallow, but it underscored the depth of the network's corruption. As Ethan, Isabella, and I pieced together the remaining fragments of the conspiracy, the urgency to dismantle the network intensified. The final confrontation was imminent, and the stakes had never been higher. Our latest breakthrough came from an unexpected source, a whistleblower within the network who had grown disillusioned with their methods. This individual provided us with critical intelligence about the network's command center, a fortified location housing their most sensitive operations. With this information, we had the opportunity to deliver the decisive blow that would cripple the network once and for all. Preparation for the final strike was meticulous. Isabella coordinated with cybersecurity experts to disable the network's digital defenses, while Ethan and I strategized the physical infiltration. The operation required absolute precision. Any misstep could mean failure or, worse, exposure that would allow the network to retaliate with lethal force. The night of the operation was moonless, providing the perfect cover for our approach. We moved silently through the shadows, each step calculated and deliberate. The command center loomed ahead, a monolithic structure guarded by both electronic surveillance and armed security. My heart pounded with a mix of adrenaline and steely determination. This was the culmination of months of planning, and there was no turning back. As we breached the perimeter, the tension was palpable. Isabella hacked into the security system, granting us access without triggering alarms. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of antiseptic and the hum of high-tech machinery. We navigated the labyrinthine corridors, guided by the intelligence provided by our whistleblower. Reaching the central hub, we found ourselves face-to-face with the network's leadership. Laura Thompson stood at the forefront, her expression a mask of defiance and desperation. Behind her, a group of high-ranking officials monitored the operations, their faces hardened by years of corruption. "Welcome," Laura sneered, her voice dripping with contempt. "I was wondering when you'd show up." Without hesitation, I stepped forward, my confidence unwavering. "It's over, Laura. Your reign of deception ends tonight." The confrontation was swift and brutal. Shots rang out as security forces attempted to retaliate, but we were prepared. Ethan provided cover, while Isabella ensured that our digital footprint was erased, preventing any immediate retaliation from the network's remnants. Amid the chaos, I faced Laura directly, the personification of everything I despised. "You think you've won?" she spat, trying to mask her fear. "There are others like us. This network won't crumble because of a few individuals." I took a step closer, my resolve unbreakable. "Maybe not overnight, but tonight marks the beginning of the end. Your actions have consequences, and tonight you'll face them." As the dust settled and the last of the network's leaders were apprehended, a profound sense of closure washed over me. The final strike had been executed flawlessly, dismantling the core of the corruption that had plagued us for so long. The media frenzy that followed was immense, with headlines lauding our efforts to expose and eliminate the network's influence. But amidst the victory, a lingering emptiness remained. The journey had transformed me in ways I hadn't anticipated. The confident husband who had once been betrayed and sought revenge had evolved into a man driven by a deeper sense of justice, albeit at a significant personal cost. Relationships had been strained, and the lines between right and wrong had blurred, leaving me to grapple with the moral complexities of my actions. One evening, As I stood on the balcony of our now quiet home, I reflected on the path that had led me here. The initial discovery of Sarah's betrayal had set off a chain of events that spiraled into a battle against a pervasive network of corruption. Each twist and turn had tested my resilience, pushing me to the brink of what I thought was possible. Sarah's transformation was also evident. Freed from the network's grip, she had begun the slow process of rebuilding her life, seeking redemption for her past actions. Our interactions were minimal, marked by a mutual understanding of the scars we both bore. The bitterness and anger had given way to a tentative acknowledgement of the shared trauma we had endured. As the nation began to recover from the network's fallout, efforts to restore integrity and transparency were underway. Laws were reformed, and new measures were implemented to prevent such corruption from taking root again. My role in this transformation was recognized, but the accolades felt hollow in the face of the personal sacrifices I had made. One day, a letter arrived at my doorstep, an invitation to speak at a national conference on combating corruption. It was an opportunity to share my experiences and advocate for systemic change. Accepting the invitation felt like a step towards reclaiming the man I had become, channeling my confidence and determination into a force for good. Standing before a crowd of eager listeners, I recounted the journey that had reshaped my life. The tale of betrayal, revenge, and ultimate redemption resonated deeply, serving as both a cautionary story and a beacon of hope. As I concluded my speech, a sense of fulfillment settled over me. The shadows of victory still lingered, but they were now tempered by the light of a new purpose. The final strike had been executed, but the true battle had been within myself. Rebuilding trust, healing emotional wounds, and finding peace were the next steps in my journey. The confident husband who had navigated the deepest abysses of betrayal had emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined to ensure that justice prevailed, not just for himself, but for everyone affected by the network's deceit.